Hey guys, ggDoA back. It's a new day, it's a couple new cards from Hearthstone Whispers of the Old Gods as well, so I thought I'd put out a quick video like I said I would. The plan going forward is every time a new card comes out rather, I'm just going to do a quick video and give my initial thoughts on it. So today, we get to start out with a card that I'm actually really excited about. It's the Ancient Shieldbearer. Now, we know sadly the Shield Maiden is going away in Standard. Of course, GVG is on the way out. And this is kind of the replacement, but it's a little bit different. It's very Cthulhu-oriented, as you can see. 7 mana for a 6/6 with a battle cry that says, if your Cthulhu has at least 10 attack, gain 10 armor. So, just like the Druid card, it's something that interacts with the board, or interacts with you, I guess in this case, if Cthulhu has 10 attack. And so it's interesting that Blizzard has sort of set this 10 attack as a baseline for what these class cards seem to be going off of. And it makes me wonder, really makes me wonder, when we look at all the other Cthulhu cards that are in the set, what's going to be the speed at which you buff Cthulhu, because that's going to really affect the viability of these cards. Because by itself, 7 for a 6/6 isn't really that great. The stats are less than the mana. I mean, if you look at it, it's very similar to a Shield Maiden in that the stats are less than the mana, but you get the armor, so you get the extra sustain. This is a lot of armor, though. 10 armor is a ton, so you're really not going to be playing this card unless you are going to get the Battle Cry. If you played before that, it's kind of just a, very inefficient 6/6. So it's going to be a card that's going to come a little bit late game. It looks like Warrior's going to have some control options for building a Cthulhu deck. And the idea seems to be that Blizzard wants people to be able to build Cthulhu decks with every class. Now, whether or not every class is going to be viable in competitive play with Cthulhu remains to be seen. We just don't know yet, but at least we know that Warrior has a good defensive option if they want to go the Cthulhu route. So that'll be interesting. And see, the other thing to kind of think about with this, as we look at some of these Cthulhu minions, is that you can have Cthulhu in your deck and not necessarily need to be running a Cthulhu deck, right? It doesn't have to be, including as many of the 16 Cthulhu cards as you could possibly put in there. You can just kind of run a splash of Cthulhu, we'll say. If you're talking about, like, Magic the Gathering terms, you might run a 2-color deck with a splash of a 3rd color. Something that is beneficial, but you don't really need to go off to make the deck work. So if you're thinking about Control Warrior, a couple minions that buff Cthulhu, maybe not necessarily this particular card in there, but Cthulhu himself for a late game punch, if you get, 10 random damage out on the board, and a, 10/10 or whatever Cthulhu ends up being at the time, that's a strong board presence. That's a strong finisher for a Control Warrior. So speaking about that class in particular, we could just see a little bit of Cthulhu, just a little bit of the corruption thrown into a classic Control Warrior to kind of make it work a little bit better. But if you're going full Cthulhu, then something like the Ancient Shieldbearer might, fit in there a little bit better, because you're going to be more reliably play this, especially on curve. Obviously 7 mana, I think by that point in the game it'll be pretty likely that your Cthulhu will have 10 attack. So interesting card, we'll see how it works out, but it does make you kind of think in general how deep you have to go into the Cthulhu card pool to make Cthulhu viable in a control-oriented deck. So moving on, it's another Cthulhu-related minion. I pressed the button, but I didn't have the window selected. There we go. And this was revealed by a Chinese fan site. I just want to double check. Duan Gaming. I'm probably slaying the pronunciation. Sorry, whatever, I'm American. But it's an interesting card. It's apparently called Servant of Cthulhu, or Cthulhu's Minion, or Cthulhu's Servant, or something of that nature. We haven't seen the English version yet, as far as I'm aware, but the translation, kindly given to us by a Redditor, I'll put the thread in the video description so you can go check it out for yourself, says Divine Shield and give Cthulhu +2/+2 wherever he is as a battle cry. So it's similar to the Acolytes we've seen, the 2 cards kind of peeking out behind it, that it's a card that buffs Cthulhu, gives him +2/+2, whether he's in your hand, your deck, or what have you. But this one's interesting, because it's a 4 for a 4/2, but it also has Divine Shield. So we talked earlier about some of the Cthulhu minions that had come out, and how you were essentially taking a loss in board presence, a loss in, tempo per se, too. That you're getting these sort of vanilla minions in exchange for a buff to your late game later on. And so the question, of course, like we've talked about all week long, has been survivability with Cthulhu decks, and this is a kind of card that can benefit that, right? The Divine Shield lets you trade a little bit more efficiently. It lets you get, theoretically, 2 hits off from this minion before you end up losing it, even though it does have a lower health ratio. So again, you know, cards like this I think are going to be helpful in terms of sustaining Cthulhu deck players until they get that huge late game turn when you play that 2020 Cthulhu and you just obliterate your opponent in the board, which is going to be really, really fun to see, I've got a feeling. And yeah, so that's basically it for these two cards. Just two more Cthulhu cards. You know, raises some more questions again about how deep you need to go into the Cthulhu card pool specifically to make an effective use of Cthulhu in a deck, especially more of a control deck. And two, it's good to see these other options coming out that have a little bit more board presence along with buffing Cthulhu and interacting with them that way. So again, just more exciting stuff. This expansion looks so cool. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, follow me on Twitter at ggDoA, follow my YouTube and all that stuff, and leave comments. Let me know what you think about the video format in general. I'm doing what I can on my own with my setup. Hopefully there will be improvements later, but thanks for bearing with me in the meantime. Thanks for watching, guys. See you when the next card comes out.